Alex, good to see you. Welcome to Pop Alternative.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
We're talking about the K drama, when the stars gossip coming to Netflix very soon. I mean, it's exciting, right? Because it's like, a lot of incredible things happening with K dramas right now. I kind of want to know, how did you kind of get involved with this specifically? Like, audition, where were you when you got the call for the audition? Like, just take me through that. You know what I mean? Like, I find that very interesting.
I mean, yeah, this whole experience happened totally out of left field. I was on a birthday trip. I was in Italy with a friend, just on a foodie trip, and so I got this. I was auditioning for a bunch of other stuff, and I thought I was for sure thinking that I was going to go do this other show in France, and I'd done several tapes, because this was still like COVID tapes. Like tapes are really big. And then my agent was like, "Hey, you might be going to Korea. Here's this audition." And it was kind of strange. And I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I guess I can shoot this." It was a very weird translation because it wasn't an official translation. And then yeah, they liked it. And a week, like 10 days later, I was in Korea for what I thought was originally 6 months, but then turned out to be a year. So
Wow.
it was, yeah.
And how much when do you find out about the cast? Like when do you find out about Minho and like when do you find out about all of that? Is that afterwards or is there rumblings like that there's a big cast for
Du-
it?
During, but I mean, I wasn't like I didn't know. I mean, how big everybody was. So I mean, they send you usually my agent sends me like a breakdown of like who are the main people that's attached and stuff with some links, and then you click on stuff, and then most of the stuff you don't really. I didn't recognize. I mean, I'd recognized Pachinko because Mino had done Pachinko by then,
Yep.
and then and yeah, and then you start finding stuff out as you get there. So it was just all very surreal and amazing, but surreal.
So I'm interested, right? Because there's that script to screen journey, right? Because you get the breakdown for these episodes and then you
Mhm.
actually go and film it. And there's a lot kind of at play, right? There's the drama component, the relationships between the characters, but of course, like the space component is a big one, right? The outer space. What
Right.
is your kind of mindset going like script to screen, like reading all these elements in the script and seeing it come to life on screen, so to speak?
It's been, I mean, because I've just seen now like some of the episodes, so it's totally different. Not so much the space stuff, but the overall look of the show was not what I expected, but in a good way.
Yeah.
And the script, the thing with the script to screen thing was very different because my original interpretation of, especially because I wasn't made too aware that translations were not the official ones.
Mhm.
It read to me like if it was something out of Wes Anderson type movie,
Yeah.
like very sort of this, and then everybody moves here and everybody claps like this really fast, and then they, and then it wasn't really like that. Then when I got there, the director wanted to do this. Like he was really into realism in space, so he made me watch all these documentaries about like the space station and really like work on the whole movement and that it be real.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it's a good juxtaposition with like the space stuff on this show feels very real or very based like in realism, like they had an actual copy of the space station, and then the land stuff just seems more surreal. It's kind of a, I think it's a fun mix.
Well, your answer is a perfect example of why I bring up that thing because like so much happens interpretation wise in between, right? Like you get the scripts and then like you go and film it. So it's cool that you said that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, and then also like the acting in Korea is a little bit different. Like Koreans are very expressive with the way they act. So then sometimes I'd get these notes from especially from the director in the beginning, where he was like, "You're not doing anything," and I was like, "Ah, I just don't want to be fake. I'm just not that expressive." And but then on when they'd watch like they'd watch the playback, then it would come out okay, and it's thank God, because
yeah.
the last thing I want to do is give like a canned performance of anything,
Yeah.
because that the viewer can tell if you're faking something.
For
So
sure. You look at a lot of your past projects, and at the end of the day, it's all storytelling, but
Mhm.
different worlds, different characters, right? I mean, how separate are past projects compared to something like the When the Stars Gossip? Like, do you bring stuff, mindset preparations from, Cable Girls, Mallorca Files to something like this, or are they completely separate once you wrap them?
I guess they give you set know-how,
Yeah.
like especially I didn't not that many people spoke English on set,
Yeah.
so you set know-how is useful. Like you
Mhm.
get there and the sets kind of are all the same.
Yeah.
There might be certain departments might be named or work a little bit differently, or there might not be as many. Like in Korea, they had a lot of like these sort of fused in between. The crew did like weird multiple things, not weird, but like they had like multiple things. So like maybe the makeup person also would like randomly help out on some costume thing if something went wrong, just so everything would just be super efficient and fast. They were all about
Yeah.
like efficiency in in Korea, which is crazy because then you have on the flip side you have these really really long shoot days. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard, to like have energy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I thought for myself I couldn't have imagined, like the stunt team or people like that had to be there all day holding us up, on the wires, because a lot of the wire stuff was done by like we each had like maybe 5 or 6 guys holding
Yeah.
us so that they could fine tune. So there was like this whole army
Yeah.
of like really strong. It's almost like sailing winches,
I love
like
the
those like
shots I've
really
seen on your
strong.
Instagram so far, man. I love those. Those are the best of all of you in space. Like, I can, now that
Yeah,
I can have that in my head now that like there's people in the background.
there's a bunch of people just holding you, and then on the in the set there's a bunch of green guys to make sure, like, especially if you're moving through stuff, that you don't run into things, or that like to have a little bit of an assist in case you don't reach,
Yeah,
because you're like on this sort of like line, so you're kind of in a lane, like if you need
absolutely.
to go to the right but you're on the left, you need the green guy to help you like push off, because you're only going to get so much until it starts swinging back in the other direction. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, so that's why it took so long to do all the post. Because if you look at some of the, I mean, when they sent me some of the rough cuts, uh, like it was like, wow, you have to remove all these guys. You got to make, the harness also like pulls on your costume. So then they had to like they re-digitized that. They made like avatars out of all of us, and then to kind of to like whatever they needed to replace, they kind of just did that with it.
oh, absolutely. And I do have to ask because I've spoken to him on our show before for Pachinko. I mean, what was it like
Mhm.
working with Minho? Like, what was that like? What were those conversations like for some specific scenes? Like, what can you tell me about working with him?
Mino's cool. He's it's funny because the very first impression he comes in and he has this like in Korea they have an entourage of people like that your team on set in Europe or in the US usually you have like a dedicated makeup team for everybody. And but in Korea, like the big stars, they all have their own crew. So he comes in with his own makeup team, his own stylist, his own bodyguard, and like it's just this like huge group of people, and you're like, "What is up?" And so it's kind of like intimidating at first, but everybody was super nice, and yeah, I mean, he's got this crazy following with all these fans. So it was all this sort of very generous. Here, you got to try this. Have you been to, this place? I'll set you up with, and then he tell somebody, and then they tell somebody, and the next thing I know, I have some reservation at some cool place.
That's
um,
awesome. No, it's really
yeah, that's
cool. And when I saw the announcement, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be amazing." Minot, Netflix, right? Like, I was just like, "This is gonna be great." So, how exciting is that for you to be on a show that's gonna be worldwide on Netflix specifically?
I mean, yeah, man, I pinch myself,
Yeah,
um, I hope it does well. I hope people like it. From what I've seen, I like what I've seen. So, like with all of these shows, there's a lot of characters on this one. So maybe getting into it might take a while because there's so many characters. There's
yeah.
6 of us in space, and then there's another maybe like 8 or 10 like on land. Like there's 2 different sort of land stories.
Wow.
So they got to introduce all of these people, But yeah, it's cool. They kind of all have it's like intertwined stories, of course, and yeah, it's interesting. It's a
Absolutely. And I do want to kind of
twisted comedy.
I want to also ask you as well too before we wrap up. I mean, there's two ways we watch things, right? There's like the like TV series, right? There's like the weekly traditional drops where you wait once a week, and then there's the they all drop and the binge, right? I always
Yeah.
like asking people that have worked on both sides of it, right? Like where you've worked on like the week to weeks and you worked on the all drop. I think there's a place for both of them. Like I like them both. You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
like from a viewer, like, do you like one over the other specifically? Like, or is it hard to pick?
This one they're doing a week to week thing, and I thought I would like that more, but I'm like, God, I want to watch more.
So it is going to be a
maybe
week to week drop of this.
yeah, and then I mean, it depends on what country. So like in Spain, they've released the first 6 episodes.
Yeah.
So because in Korea there's like a TV, it's also with a TV channel. So it's Netflix and a TV channel.
Yep.
So they're releasing it when they release it on TV.
Yep.
But I kind of feel like it would have been cool if they would have just waited for Netflix, or Netflix had waited and just dropped like maybe 6 of them at a time.
Yeah.
So you can get that binge fix out of the way, because I didn't realize I was addicted to the binge until they took the binge away.
I know, that's so crazy. Well, I can't wait for people to check it out, honestly. And I'm so happy for you. And Alex, so great chatting with you, man. Thank you so much for coming on Pop
Yeah,
Turnitative.
likewise. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Your Instagram
you bring
account is
such
just your
energy.
name. I appreciate that. Your Instagram is just your name, right? If people want to keep update with everything.
Yeah, there's a "the" in front because my name was taken. So the Alex Hafner.
Awesome. Well,
I didn't want to put in numbers.
YouTube.com/PopTurnative. For previous episodes, you were, of course, going to be able to catch Alex in the Netflix K-drama When the Stars Gossip. Until next time, this is Alex and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popturnative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popturnative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.